Shalom. I am Rabbi Michael Panitz, speaking to you from the pulpit of Temple Israel in Norfolk, Virginia. This is the first Sabbath in our new Jewish year, 5782, for weekly videotape sermons. So Happy New Year to all. We are beginning near the opening of Genesis, and we'll work our way, God willing, in the course of this year through the 5 books of Moses. Tonight, the Tower of Babel story is the inspiration for the message I want to share with you, and I'm calling this message Towers of Chutzpah. Chutzpah is a Yiddish word which means cheekiness, arrogance, hubris. Towers of Chutzpah. No one lives forever. What should I do about this fact of life? We have been preoccupied by this problem since the dawn of fully human consciousness. In one of our oldest stories, the Garden of Eden, God warned the first human, "On the day you eat of it," meaning the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, "you will die." Was God bluffing? Later in Genesis, it says that Adam lived for 930 years. Whatever actual time span that number signifies, the Bible is clearly asserting that he didn't die within the day. What God's words mean, I believe, is that to be human is to live in the consciousness of tomorrow, including the certainty that a tomorrow will come in which I will no longer be in the world. Once absorbed, that knowledge cannot be unlearned. Generations, many generations came and went. And in the Bronze Age, with the dawn of city life, a new answer to the age-old question became popular. I will become famous by building, and my fame will outlive me. This is the conclusion of the Mesopotamian Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest stories known to us. In that story, chastened by the awareness that the snake has made off with the irreplaceable plant of rejuvenation, or as we would say biblically, the fruit of the tree of life, and knowing that death is inevitable, Gilgamesh consoles himself by looking at the peerless walls of Uruk, the city he rules. I'll quote from the conclusion of Tablet 11 of the epic, where Gilgamesh said to him, to Ur-Shanabi the boatman, his colleague, "Go up, Ur-Shanabi, onto the walls of Uruk, inspect the base, view the brickwork. Is not the very core made of oven-fired brick? Did not the 7 sages lay down its foundations?" Well, as you can see from the accompanying illustration, those walls are just ruins today. And Uruk is as dead as Gilgamesh himself. So much for immortality through mega building. That's the enduring lesson of our Bible story, the Tower of Babel. The people in that story want to, quote, make a name for themselves. That's their motivation, to settle in one place, to build a city, and to erect a tower whose top will reach the heavens. They are the echo of Gilgamesh, and their project is equally futile. Their name exists only as a butt of scorn. What they hailed as, to quote their language, Bab Ilu, the gate of the gods, has become rather Babylon, as in Babel, the gate of confusion, where the mythical common language of humankind was forever lost. Still, the pretentiousness of megalomaniacs and their monumental architecture has continued to bedazzle the imagination. Think of Hitler's architect, Albert Speer, and his plans to create mind-numbingly enormous buildings to satisfy the ego of his Führer. And you can look now at the accompanying illustration of his planned Volkshalle, an enormous, enormous building. After the demise of the Third Reich, the new communist overlords in East Berlin built monuments reflecting their own hubris, that they were the new masters of the arc of history. Their answer to Speer's Volkshalle was the Palast der Republik, the Palace of the Republic, where the victory of communism could be celebrated, both with high cultural performances and with recreational visits to a bowling alley. And you can see the accompanying illustration of the Palace of the Republic. Opened to great fanfare in 1976, the Palace of the Republic had a measly run, less than a decade and a half. It didn't even last until the fall of the German Democratic Republic. In defiance of their own law, the construction of this official building included 5,000 tons of asbestos. On September 19, 1990, in one of its final acts of government, the East German Volkskammer closed the building for health reasons. Asbestos removal continued after German unification, and by 2003, the building was declared fit either for reconstruction or for continued demolition. That sparked a parliamentary debate whose outcome, over the protests of a majority of former East German citizens, was the decision to tear down the building. Meanwhile, the abandoned site, covered in graffiti, had become a magnet for disreputable activities, drugs, and prostitution. The story of architectural expressions of ambition continued. The German state harvested over 20,000 tons of steel from the dismantled building, and you can see a picture of some of that steel piled up at the site. And Germany sold it to the United Arab Emirates for the construction of the Burj Khalifa, the much touted tallest building in the world, veritably a modern Tower of Babel, a symbol of Arab power and prestige. And let me quote from the Uncube architectural magazine from 2013. Their blogger wrote, "Somehow the incorporation of material from the East German government's showpiece into the Emirates' bragging right to tallest building in the world seems appropriate, since both buildings have been used to symbolize the supposedly egalitarian nature of their respective societies, but within rigid limits and for the right people." From mud bricks to structural steel, much has changed. But at a more fundamental level, human hubris, or as we say in Yiddish, Chutzpah, remains. The lesson of Genesis is still relevant. Building big is not in itself an answer to the dilemma of the human condition. Good values, not stronger girders, are the ultimate response to the human fact of mortality. Good values, not taller towers, will bring us nearer to heaven. Shalom.